In nomine Patri et Filio et Spiritus Sancti, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen.
What does it mean?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And can you explain a bit more if you wish to?
Say it again. Yeah.
It's like in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Beautiful.
And it's from?
It's a Latin sort of beginning of prayer.
From Bible?
Pardon?
Is it from Bible?
Is it from the Bible?
Well, as far as I know, Bible, it's but it's also the beginning of many prayers, like the Our Father and the in particular.
Beautiful. And if I could move it into how the Bhagavan would put it into, is that God, Self and Guru is same. For Bhagavan, its Trinity is God, Guru and Self. They are all three same. No difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because same essence and same Self which comes as Guru, and the same Self is God only. You know, once some Westerner asked Bhagavan that I understand all your self-inquiry and understanding that you realize self. You realize self when you go into this impersonal presence and you shun your ego, or you inquire what this ego is, and then you found that there's no ego. There's nothing like ego actually. So the suffering is fake and the sufferer is an illusion, and there's only pure self. But she said, I understand all these things, but where is God in it? So someone has created, and where is that God? You can't put God in this equation. And Bhagavan asked her why, and then she said, oh, look, he should be separate. And Bhagavan said, if the God is selfless God, it is of no value. If that God, what your mind has created, is inferior to you in all ways, you are pure self, then you have a mind. Mind has created a God, and this God is the one without the self. So then who would you call God? That mind created God or yourself? And she understood it. And I don't think it is hard to understand the way Bhagavan explains everything. Because, you know, the mind is always looking for God outside. Mind creates God. Mind can create so many forms. But at the end, you have to merge, you have to go into that emptiness where there's no creation of thoughts, creating forms and concepts and God. That's good to start somewhere, to hold on to something, because we are attracted with names, forms. So you start somewhere. It's not bad. But eventually, you can come to this conclusion that it's only self. Now this self, what we all try to know, is very, very easy. If you see, in day to day, we all are in that self. Especially a very true, honest, humble seeker is almost always in that self, because he knows when the ugly head of ego arises. Sometimes you know quickly, sometimes it takes a while, sometimes you get involved in it, and sometimes you can hold on to it. But with constant practice, you stay in this impersonal environment, and that is pure self. It's not something great, it's not something not possible. It is possible for all human beings who are looking for it. Because this is us only. This is not separate from us. If you understand what is at stake, we do meditation, mindfulness, concentration, so many techniques to know the self, isn't it? But these techniques are not to know the self. They are to know the non-self. If you really go deep into it, self is always the same. You are that self. But you have to know the non-self. Once you know the non-self, then you are only self. So we have discussed this so many times in our satsang, that how sometimes any selfishness arises, or something personal arises which you can feel. Identifying that from a distance itself is freedom from that ego. That's all. It's so simple. And so if you're not identifying with that personal self and you are staying as impersonal, that is self. That impersonal is self. That is you. You without attributes is the self. You with all the attributes, your thinking mind, your intellect, your personal interest in things, your desires, your concepts, your ownership to the body, ownership to all thoughts, that actually taints yourself and self gets lost. And then you suffer. Then you suffer because of wrong identification. Because you are identifying yourself as this body-mind complex and all what it has brought you to, all sorts of things. This pure self is tainted, impure, you can call, or just gets merged in all these forms, and you can't identify yourself, and you think just by one wrong concept of I am this body-mind. But if you stay and watch, you start getting disentangled. For some, it can be a very quick process. It could be just a matter of few minutes maybe, or maybe a minute. And for some, it can take years. Depends how much you are entangled, how much you are in a doership role. This can even be known by just talking to a person, how they talk, how they behave, how they act in society with others. Some people are too much me, and mine, for everything. To prove a point, they can go to an extent to kill others. And some can move out of wherever there is argument. They are not interested in proving anything. So you can understand this, that let's say there are these two types of people who are on the path of knowing self. It is very easy to understand who will come quickly into this selfhood. The more you are a peaceful person, a good person, it's much more easier. More you are argumentative, more you are very intellectual, critical personality, more difficult it would be. Because for everything you will have a thought. You will analyze and sub-analyze and keep analyzing. And you will be in this maze of thoughts from which you can never get out. And that is the entrapment. But a humble, simple person can just accept what heard and just watch. people who keep reading and reading and reading actually are those ones for whom to get out of it is more difficult, because their mind never gets satisfied by what it has heard to follow some practice. They want to confirm by more reading. It's good. Reading is really good to start with, but it should not be the end. Because sometimes we get addicted of reading. Like people read fictional stuff, some people keep reading spiritual stuff. It is again a different type of addiction. Like there are so many scriptural books and all, there's no end to it. And then if ego takes over that reading, then it is a disaster. Because then ego thinks, I know everything. I know all the shlokas, I know Sanskrit, I know English, I know Tamil, I know everything. And that is again an obstacle. It's better to know what you are than anything else. So understand what exactly all this process, all the paths are to know what is unreal. When you know what is unreal, real is already there. That's all. If you start knowing the real, you can't know the real, because real is there and the one who is trying to know has to disappear. Because it's only the mind which we use for meditation, concentration, reading, satsang. Basically that understanding that whatever is happening is just happening through this body-mind complex. And I am only a witness to everything. If this much you accept wholeheartedly, not intellectually, wholeheartedly, and then practice on it in a way of total acceptance of whatever is happening, allowing the body, mind, actions to happen the way it is happening, but staying in impersonal presence. Okay, you can also take it as an example of, let's say you have been given a role to act in a play. And you have to do it. You are bound to do that act. You can't say, I'm leaving now. But you don't have to forget your true nature, that you are not this actor, you are not this role. You are just playing. And it is not real. And you can still perform and you are uninvolved. And after the play, you will go home and you will sleep and you will meet your family. You're not going to go with that fake wife whom you met in the play. Here also, the body has been given a role as from prarabdha karmas from the past. Or if you don't believe in that, that's also okay. It doesn't matter. You don't have to make too many concepts. But just understand, if there is no doership in this role of whatever we do, you are already free. You are only bound when you have this personal identity with whatever the body is doing. A mind is thinking. If you have no ownership, you are free. And what is the benefit of it? The benefit is that you are in your unending joy. That joy never leaves you. That peace never leaves you. Because the moment you have a stake in anything, let's say share market, you have put some money and you forget it because that's what your accountant or financial advisor have asked you to put in blue chip. Leave it for 10 years and don't worry, because you have no knowledge, you have no interest, but you're just doing because this is the advice given, and that's fine. You are still not trapped in it. But let's say you do share trading you want the money to grow, you have deep desire, intention, then the market crashes, you will suffer, and it goes up, then you feel so happy, and you go through this roller coaster ride because you have invested your desire and your interest in those same shares. While another person might be doing just because it is the way, let's say super fund is putting your money, it goes up, goes down. But this is what the advice was, so I'm doing it. So you are doing, but not as a doer. So same act can be done in two different ways, where you have doership and where you have no doership. And we all know that wherever there is a doership, there can be suffering. There is suffering always, because there is a lot in stake, because you have already made an intention, a desire. You're looking for results, fruits of action, and that is bondage. When you're looking for results all the time, that is a bondage. And so let's say if you are just witnessing to things, that is freedom. More you stay as witness, more you get disentangled from this egoship, this doership. And slowly, because you have given up that role, that will start disappearing. And more it disappears, more you are in bliss, more you are in your witnessing, less is the grip of that doership, less is the grip of thoughts, mind attacks, and you will be more happier. So this process can be slow, this process can be fast, which is not in your hand, which depends how much garbage is already there, how much the mind stuff is already there. So for some it can be very quick, and for some it might take time. But this is the simple, easiest process. You can call it self-inquiry. I don't know whether that's the right term, but I don't even know what would you call it. Would you call it meditation, or path of knowledge, path of contemplation, or path of non-duality? You can calling by these names also makes you attached to some concepts, and if you try to look into the meaning of these words, then you get more trapped, because then people start talking about Shankara's philosophy and Advaita and Vedanta. Oh God, everything get lost. Then it becomes concept after concept. Less concepts or zero concepts, but more attention. And as we move in our day, with friends, with family, at work, with people around us, with job, things, just see, can we stay neutral? So it might appear hard when we start, because that ego which has been given this work to be accomplished in this birth will keep coming up as a doer. Because it has been given this work, you should understand this, that this ego has been given work to be accomplished in this birth by his employer, that pure self. Now, the doership by doing work will come, like, whatever work we do, we always have this doership. But slowly, when you understand, when this reality seeps into you, and you start getting the joy of not getting involved, it is so natural that you don't want to leave that neutral, impartial presence, and you don't want to act from that ego, which is so ugly. Even you feel ashamed. Why was I working from that lower level of living? There was no need. But nobody told us, and everyone was behaving in the same way. So we had that mind energy playing around us in society, among people, and we had no idea whether there's any other way to live life. So we were living like that. So you can say we were ignorant because of our innocence, because of lack of knowledge. But once, if you have understood this, and if you start practicing it, then you are your own satsang all the time. Satsang means company of truth. You are that truth. And you're leaving the untruth, which is ego. And this process is so beautiful. Even this process is so beautiful. It is so divine. It is so blissful. It looks like you're coming back home. And you feel so light, actually. That is the beauty of it. So we again use terms because we use words. There is no way to explain. But the closest word which I feel is closest to self is emptiness. I can't find any other word closer to it. Because you are empty of thoughts. You are empty of concepts. You are empty of planning, judgment, liking. Empty of heaviness here. If this emptiness comes, actually the body feels like there is no weight. This ownership of the body creates a big weight, as if this whole thing is very heavy. This mind, don't think mind is light, it is very heavy. It gives the weightage to the body, because the moment it has this ownership of the body feels heavy. The body feels empty. Everything is just empty. And look, if some people are very, analytical and they want evidence. If you want to look into evidence, see even the scientists, they go into molecule, atom, they find nucleus, neutron and proton and electrons going around. And what is most of it? Just emptiness. If you see, emptiness is the core of everything. Even form comes from no form. Everything comes from this emptiness only. This big human body comes from such a small 2 cells, sperm and ova, and becomes so huge. Everything starts from there, and just a big tree comes from small seed. Everything starts from that emptiness, because this emptiness is not just empty, it is alive also. This emptiness has a character also. In a sense, it is so alive, it is the source, it is the powerhouse. So Vedanta has given a name to it, Brahman. But Brahman is not an entity in itself. It is just this awareness, which is very subtle, but perceivable only by Brahman only. So you are that self, you are that Brahman, all pervading. If someone else wants to know you as Brahman, they have to be Brahman. So this is the thing. So scientist who is looking to know Brahman has to be Brahman. That is why it is so difficult. Mind cannot reach it. That ego which is trying to know it has to dissolve. So only a spiritual person who is doing a scientific discovery to know can know it. By making himself as a subject to the experiment. But then for him to prove others would be difficult if they are skeptical. So many scientists, once they know in their own beingness, they become spiritual. And the main scientific community discards them because they can't understand where this all talk is coming from. So that is why there is always this conflict between science and spirituality, and a common ground can be reached only by people who are scientific but spiritual. And there are nowadays many of them, and they have to be, because after a certain time you start thinking that how much inventions and discoveries can fulfill us. There's always feeling of insecurity and incompleteness. But once you stay as Brahman, you might not have any gadgets. You are still complete, contented, happy. So none of the things or objects which we think can bring happiness actually can bring some pleasure, that is true. Maybe a momentary happiness, that is true, but not that contentment and long-lasting eternal happiness. This comes when you know what you are. So invest your energy in form of attention to not getting pulled back, pushed out into the ego, and stay pulled within the self. So this tussle, which you can call like a Shiva and Shakti. Shiva is that impersonal presence, and Shakti is that dynamic energy which is trying to keep you as ego. That tussle, that comes, this both comes from the same source, but you should put your attention not to get involved. So it's all very internal, very peaceful process actually. It's not that difficult also, once you have a knack of it. Now, what would you call this whole process? It's very hard to give a name. Maybe you can call it self-inquiry, but then some people think self-inquiry is like asking questions. But if you look, what is inquiry? Inquiry is also investigation, isn't it? Or you can call it self-investigation or self-discovery or self-attention. This word I really like, self-attention. Paying attention to self, that's all. Once you understand what is self and what is non-self, once you can discriminate between discernment between the two, and then you stay as self, that is self-attention. When paying attention to self stays really firm and solid, then it is you're abiding in self, and after some time these effort will drop, because now you know you don't have to keep doing efforts once you are there, you know. Let's say you reach home, you're not keep running now, you just settle. So it is very beautiful, very easy. Anyone can do it. Religious, non-religious, atheist, having so many concepts or no concept, doesn't matter, but you should understand what is important. Most important is you as self. Just stay there. Don't leave your home. And enjoy life. Whatever comes, comes. Whatever goes, goes. Because if you have no personal desire, then who can make you unhappy? Or if you have no personal desire, who can exploit you? So this whole depends on where you're looking things from. If you're looking things from this impartial presence, nothing can make you unhappy. And this is true wisdom. Sit in your silence, allowing things to happen, and see how much peace dawns on you. Not just inner peace, but even the body's action, becomes divine. Even your speech becomes softer, and you appear less arrogant in your day-to-day things. And sure, you must be a good human being, but you become a better human being than what you were before. All these changes are must. It has to happen. If someone says, I am in my pure self, and he's an arrogant idiot, there is something wrong. So, the fruit of self is that you become really, because when you are really happy, you can only give happiness. If you have peace, you can only give peace. If you are feeling love, you can only give love. But if you have fear, you will try to scare others. If you lack things, you will try to be greedy and capture from others. If you're dissatisfied, discontented, you will be angry on others. It is so true. You don't have to create good habits. It just happens because self is nothing. And then nothing is so pure that it purifies the body, purifies your mind, purifies your actions, and purifies things around you. All sorts of things. Because it is not asking anything from anyone. It only knows to give. And it feels actually shameful to receive anything. Because it is not doing any give and take, that I give you this and you give me this. It is not a business transaction anymore in life. Because there is no other whom to give. Till we behave as ego, then there are others. But as impartial presence, then everything is same as this body-mind. When you are not attached to this body-mind, how you will be attached to other body-minds? When you are impartial here, you are impartial everywhere. It is like you fix yourself inside and everything gets fixed around you. It is so beautiful. While in moral class, ethical teachings, in religious groups, speak truth, don't steal, blah, blah, blah. There's no end to those rules and regulations. You keep trying few and then you slip and then something goes wrong and then you practice. Here the problem is ego is trying to be good, which can never be good. It can be better, but can never be pure. It will be pure only when it disappears. So watch it. Your watching will make it disappear. And that is disentanglement. That is so easy, so simple. There is no other method which can take you so fast to your true self. In some traditions they say, keep doing mindfulness, watch things from your mind, impure mind, pure mind. Be a meditator as a new meditator all your life for 50 years, 60 years. The reason is because they are keeping that ego alive. And ego is feeling that I'm getting better and more peace. This method of self-inquiry gets rid of the problem itself. Rather than pampering it, rather than keeping it there. Better to get rid of it. Then there's nothing to fix. Otherwise, whole life we can be just fixing it, in ashrams and caves, in religious settings and groups. And sometimes it grows there rather than getting rid of it. Because again, there are human beings and politics and whatever it is, hierarchy and all those types of things and rules. It is much easier that if you and yourself sorts out everything. No mediator, no middleman, no religious leader. Just you and your pure self. And allow the pure self to win over you. And slowly and slowly, some people think this vairagya, this passion for the word comes and then But I think they both happens together. When you are so happy inside, you have no interest in anything else. It's not that you are antisocial or you are bore person. It is like you are always happy. Actually, bore people wants to do something to get rid of this boredom. But if you're happy, then you're happy, People come, you welcome, you feed them, you hug them. If they don't come, you're happy already. And that Brahman is always the same. Unchanging reality, your own true reality. So outside circumstances changes. Definitely it can affect a jnani also, but momentarily. Like that something has happened. If someone comes from back and slaps you, you will get shocked. It's not like I am a jnani just sitting like this, nothing will happen. Some reaction will happen, but you can adjust yourself from that. There's no impulsivity there left anymore. Because you have taken away all the job from that ego and you're just staying as uninvolved. And we have all the time in this world with ourselves. If someone says, I'm too busy to practice self-inquiry, that means he's not interested in it. Because we are always with this self. Self never leaves us. Though it might appear to us that we are involved and we are in doership. But the self is always watching as things are, and you can be just there. Nobody is asking you that you have to keep the doership role. Who is asking you? People just want the job to be done. Nobody is asking you that you should claim your doership. Nobody is asking you. In fact, if you stay as an impartial person in your job, people will love you, like you. You will earn more respect. You don't have to create fear to gain respect. And so this is the beauty of this pure self. Somehow by that divine action, it lets things happen in the best possible way. Because here you have given up doership. So your will is divine will. And divine takes care of everything. Because remember, you are born with this body mind to do some certain things. Must. Before this body dies. That is what Bhagavan said all the time. That things have to happen, whatever has to happen. If things have to happen the way they have to happen, then who am I to worry? Then that God or that divine will or that absolute will make sure it happens. If that will make sure it will happen, then just come out of this doership. And if you come out of doership, there are two benefits. One is you are happy. And the second is, now the divine has to act if it has to happen. So you will be served everything in plate. 5-star treatment. Then why you work like a coolie? Bonded labor. Just be free. Enjoy your freedom, enjoy your bliss, enjoy your pure presence. You are born to enjoy, not to act like a slave. Slave of your desires, slave of your plans, doership. Only one concept you have to change, which this society admires, that the people who are productive are good for society. Maybe they are good for society, but they are bad for themselves. They die of suffering, anxiety, depression, stress, insomnia, and so many diseases. Don't be in this trap. And you know why they do it? Because they try to see their image in others' eyes. They think if they do this, then the society or people around them will appreciate. They're looking at appreciation in others' eyes. And that is the problem. Because that's the way society wants people, everyone to be slave. But you stay independent of work. If work has to happen, it will happen. So you wake up in morning, you are impartial presence, you move around, you meet people, people say something or don't say something, or whatever they want to talk about you and whatever they think about you is none of your business. And then the ego comes and it will say, oh, that's not right, and just watch it. And then something goes wrong the way it should not be. Just watch it. And then something happens unexpectedly better than what you expected. Just watch it. See how the day goes by. Things keeps happening. Some days are bad days, some days are good days. It's just a day. That's the way things have to happen. There's no good or bad, just things happens. Or people say, shit happens, isn't it? It's not in your control. Why should we worry? Why should we worry about anything? We worry about smallest of smallest things unnecessarily. And we get trapped in this mind, these thoughts. While in reality, in our true nature, there is nothing but emptiness. This emptiness, full of bliss, full of peace. Like a clear sky where there might be one thought which comes when you wish. This is the power of this emptiness, that the mind, once you stay as self, mind becomes your slave. Rather than you are slave of the mind and acting as the mind says. So that is a big transformation. If you see all psychotherapy, cognitive behavior therapy, all coming from psychologists, They all work within the domain of mind. They can make things work better. But this path finishes the culprit, finishes the sufferer. Because this sufferer is fake. It is our interest. Because of our ignorance, we think we are this body mind because everyone around us is behaving like that. And that is the reason, like a satsang group where few people sit together, talk like this, and try to look within and stay there and raise energy of the whole group and keep practicing it. Keep confirming with each other. That is so beautiful. More you stay in self, more the self dawns on you. More you stay in ego, more you become egoistic. As we know, the person is known by the company he keeps. We all get some way influenced by others. Get influenced by yourself. Be a devotee of yourself. Love yourself. You are carrying this jewel, which is such a purity, which you are wasting. Leaving this jewel, you are going for meaningless things, which are disappearing all the time. And remember, this body mind is also disappearing. Then once you leave this body, you can't find this jewel. Then you have to start again. So before you take your last breath in this body, know yourself and be free forever. We have already wasted a lot of time. All our life, what we have done is to enjoyment of our sensory organs, and that's okay. And there's nothing, whatever has happened has happened. Let's move, try to know the self, and then enjoy whatever is coming in life, because it will keep continuing whatever has to happen. It's not like once you know the self, then the life will be miserable. The script is already written. I guarantee you, if you stay as self, you will enjoy more. Because there is no trapment. If the movie becomes tragic, suddenly it doesn't affect you. And if it's joyful, it is joyful. You stay as the screen of witness and let the images play their role, come and go. And this remembrance of self, some people talk to me that they forget this self when they are involved. But more you stay here, you cannot forget it. It becomes so natural that it stays, that awareness stays, because awareness is always there. It is your interest in other things which makes you feel that you have lost it. Slowly and gradually, that will become so firm, this awareness mode, that it will never leave you. And understand that in a moment, if you move into this egoistic mode, in a moment when you realize that this is happening, you are not in a trap. Understand this. It is a huge difference knowing it and involved in it. I'll give you a very simple technique to know when you are involved and when you are not. Very simple way to know it. If anything happening which hurts you, you are trapped. Anything which is happening which creates slight irritation but you can watch it, you are still uninvolved. Wherever you are impulsive, you are involved. Wherever you are angry, genuinely angry, slight anger can always come to anyone, you are involved. Actually, self is not against enjoyment or pleasure or whatever is happening. When you stay like that, you will understand that everything is so beautiful and everything is in harmony. Once you give away this filter of your mind and you see things as it is, you have gratitude for that self, that how beautiful, how grateful is this self which has revealed you, your true nature. This is grace of your own self on you. And then you wonder that what good karmas I have done, or why it happened to me, why not to others, or how it happened to me. Like, you hear stories about people on this path for many, many years, and some says it takes 7 births. Maybe this was your 7th birth. Who knows why this happened? Why it has happened to you? Even listening to this is definitely changing the way things are happening in you. Otherwise, it would not be happening like this, sitting together. Allow this to take you to your own beingness, which is the best seat in theater, from where you can see everything and you are not involved and you are not losing your peace and you are contented and happy. But still you can interact, you can help others, you can send blessings if they ask or you feel, and everything is still spontaneous. You don't have to plan anything. You don't have to think about doing anything. Just things are happening. Actually, things are happening the same way for each of us. But with our ignorance, we think we are doing and we are suffering. So let's say that pure self has planned things to happen this way, but we already had our plans from our ego mind, and we spoil all the fun. Let's say this God has planned a beautiful, simple party for us, a barbecue in a park, but we want to go to city in a pub. And someone suggests or something was happening, we have resistance and we want to do this way. Whatever, I'm just giving an example that let's go with the divine plan. The divine will is our will. And see how beautiful life turns out to be. Life of no resistance. life of total acceptance, life of no expectations. These are not mere words. When you stay as self, that is what it is. And it's not like absolute also. Still things are happening. You can comment on things. If someone is doing some mistake, you can always comment on that. But there's no harshness in it. There's no personal ego in it. Still there's love in, even if you are commenting on something, someone, there's love in it. So stay in this pure awareness. Be a devotee of pure awareness, pure self. Treat yourself as God or absolute or the ultimate aim of life or goal. Give all your energy to it. More you stay in it, more it unfolds. More it unfolds, less the ego is. Less the ego is, less thoughts are. Less thoughts are, more peace is there. And when there are no thoughts, the only thing left is emptiness. And in this emptiness, you will start noticing that even without a single thought, things manifest, things happens. Without intention, things happens. And sometimes you are so scared to have intention because the moment the intention somehow seeps in, things manifest. And you wonder that I used to work so hard and desires and do, and things were not happening. Now just a mere intention comes and it just happens. Unnecessary energy was going into thoughts and planning and doership. No need. Understand this whole game and be free from this game. So again and again, I have to come back to our Guru, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. Just watch how he lived. Sitting on a stone, living in a cave, food comes, food doesn't come, people stay in ashram, people are kicked out of ashram. His ardent devotees are kicked out of ashram. He doesn't mind. He goes there to meet them. How beautiful. People insult him, people write books against him. Whatever happens, people praise him, people call him God. He's indifferent to everything. Because he's in bliss all the time in his own self. He knows the truth. People who are your devotees can criticize you. It doesn't matter. It's all part of this game. All these changing entities in changeless pure self. When you hold on to pure self, life becomes divine. You become that life. And then another secret in this is that now this is the first time you realize that you are running the show. Though it is a very big statement to say like this. But actually you are running the show when you stay as awareness. And here you have complete free will. But you don't want to use any will. These all look like paradox, but when you stay as self, you become so lazy to execute any will. You know, the other thing about awareness and staying in this awareness, your one desire is fulfilled, which is to be happy. That is the ultimate desire of all human beings on earth, whether they are full of ego or no ego. Everyone wants to be happy. So at least this desire to be happy is guaranteedly fulfilled, staying as self. Rest, if you're happy, then what else matters? And this happiness is not dependent on any things or beings. It is the quality of this awareness. And once it sucks you in, and once you get established in it, then who would like to move out of it? So stay in your pure presence all the time. Never leave it. Enjoy your pure silence in this pure self, where actually nothing is happening at any time, just like your deep sleep, with only difference that in deep sleep you are not aware of this peace. But in this, you are aware of that peace where there is no thought, where there is no doer. This waking, deep sleep, Jagrat Sushupti, where you are aware of this deep sleep. Actually, it is not even sleep. It is full Jagrati. There is no way to convey that. It is more vigilant state than waking state. Where you are so vigilant that, because how can, just understand, let's take an example of normal two human beings. One is very impulsive. Then you will think that he is less awake, isn't it? And the one who is responsive, reacts to things in a responsible manner, you will think he is more awake in a way. And this state is so awake where that ego which acts cannot sustain. And this is the only reason that alcohol or these depressants to the brain are considered completely prohibited. Because you take 2 steps forward and then you have few glasses of drink. Your 6 months or 1 year or 2 years of sadhana, what you have done, goes wasted. Like at one end you are trying to raise your awareness, or the other end, few drinks making you few years behind. What a stupid you are. That is the way, that is the reason why Bhagavan talked about the food also. But some foods are really counterproductive, which makes you so dull. That awareness is trying to rise, that energy, and you are trying to dull it, numb it. So this is a awareness. See the word aware. Awareness is awareness. It is real awareness. Awareness to an extent that even when you go into a dream, you're still aware of the dream. And even in deep sleep, self never sleeps. Body sleeps, mind dreams, and mind disappears in deep sleep. Mind keeps changing. Body needs rest. But self is always the same. Self is not dependent on body. Body is dependent on self. Abide in this pure self and be happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you, everyone.